Sean Diddy Combs. R&B singer and his ex-girlfriend Cassie Ventura took the stand today. Now, we have to warn you, the details in this case are very difficult to hear.
It was how Cassie took that stand. You could hear a pin drop when those doors opened, and a visibly pregnant Cassie Ventura walking past a man she had not seen in 6.5 years.
A lot of questions about the power dynamics in their relationship, that Cassie Ventura was just 21 years old when they first met, that very quickly that relationship turned second, and then very quickly it turned violent.
In a jaw-dropping moment that may redefine the direction of Sean Diddy Combs' federal sex trafficking trial, Cassie Ventura finally took the stand on May 13, 2025. And of course, the world has been watching closely. And even though no cameras are allowed in the courtroom, the testimony delivered by Diddy's former partner was nothing short of explosive.
While Cassie did describe her relationships with Combs, went from being loving and then going on a yacht, the relationship becoming violent, and really seemingly centering around these freak-off events, these highly coordinated events where workers were hired. We learned how the freak-off sometimes would initiate, based on a series of emails that were read to the jury from 2010.
And we all know that from the very beginning of this massive trial, spectators, critics, media, and even just the people on the internet have been waiting for Cassie to show up in court. Especially, she is the first person who lifted the veil from Diddy's secret box. From the moment CNN dropped that bombshell video, everything just came crashing down for Diddy. Throughout 6 emotionally draining hours, Cassie described her relationship with the music mogul as a slow descent into a nightmare filled with abuse, manipulation, surveillance, and coercion. And people, if you thought the accusations were wild before, this courtroom bombshell took it to a whole new level. Cassie, who is visibly pregnant, reflected on how it all began. Yep, this woman is making sure not to leave any details behind. She was just 19 years old, fresh-faced and full of dreams, when she signed a 10-album deal with Diddy's label Bad Boy Records. Little did she know that deal wasn't just a career milestone, it was the start of what she now describes as a decade-long entrapment. What began as a romantic relationship quickly evolved into a terrifying game of control. She said Diddy would go ballistic if she didn't respond to messages immediately. Assistants, security guards, and even house staff were reportedly dispatched to track her down if she went quiet. That's next-level obsession, right? And remember, this wasn't just a boyfriend. This was a global icon, wealthy, powerful, connected. The power imbalance was real and suffocating. Cassie painted a picture of a man who didn't just love control. He lived for it. From her clothes, to her schedule, to her friends, Diddy allegedly micromanaged everything. Her phone, her location, even who she spoke to, all under his watchful eye. But it didn't stop there. According to Cassie's testimony, Diddy had built what felt like an invisible cage around her. He dictated what she could wear, nothing too revealing if he was feeling jealous, and nothing too modest if he wanted to show her off. She wasn't just his girlfriend, she was, in his mind, his possession. And as crazy as they might sound, Cassie vouched that this is true.
Patriots, his Secret Service, Sam, I'm about to leave, but was going to get one more off. So Cassie was talking about when she would work, when Diddy would let her work, was hardly ever. She would host at like a club in Vegas for $7,500 to $20,000 each. Diddy was supportive of that at first, but soon it became pretty common for him to say no to a job. Physical appearance was very important, and that's what she said. She was very insecure, that he actually said she looked too Mexican, nails needed to be a certain way, clip nail polish, and her shoes. He would always rag on her about her shoes and her nails.
He reportedly kept tabs on her 24/7. If she didn't answer a call or a text within minutes, he would send someone to her location to check up. Sometimes it was a trusted assistant, other times it was a security guard.
Cassie testified that Diddy became increasingly violent as their relationship progressed. She said, "You make the wrong face, and the next thing I knew, I was getting hit in the face." She also said that Diddy had mood swings that impacted her greatly. And if she missed one of Diddy's calls, him or any member of his staff would call her incessantly until she answered.
She said she often felt like she was being hunted, constantly watched, never truly alone. people close to her reportedly noticed her change over time. Friends were cut off. Her family saw her less and less. And when anyone questioned it, they were shut out of her life altogether. The further she was isolated, the tighter Diddy's grip became. Even when she was allowed to socialize, there were always strings attached. She couldn't talk to certain people. She couldn't post certain things. Every move she made felt like it needed to be pre-approved. In court, Cassie shared how Diddy would turn even the smallest disagreement into an explosion. If she challenged him or pushed back on something, he'd accuse her of being disrespectful. He'd raise his voice, slam doors, and break things. Not to mention how the mood swings were unpredictable, volatile. He could go from showering her with affection to cursing her out in front of staff within minutes. She never knew which version of him she was going to get. Of course, a lot of people are wondering why she stayed. Like, she had the right to pack her things and call it a day. However, it was not as easy as it seemed. But there were times, she admitted, when she tried to leave, and every time she pulled away, he'd reel her back in with apologies, gifts, or worse, threats. According to hers, he made it clear life without him would mean career suicide. He told her no one in the industry would work with her, that he would make sure she'd never perform again. And with his influence, that wasn't an empty threat, and Cassie knows that Diddy has the power to take everything from her. One moment during her testimony that struck a chord was when she described waking up some mornings unsure of what she had done the night before. Diddy, she alleged, would sometimes drug her or encourage her to take pills before one of the infamous freakoffs. In those moments, her body was present, but her mind was foggy, blurred, disconnected. That disorientation, she said, was a part of how he kept her compliant. Yes, now, drugs are involved.
Y'all, we back with another one. So, as I have previously stated, there was no way that Cassie was able to do this type of stuff without being on a bunch of drugs. So she confirmed those specific drugs. So she stated that, and I'm gonna look to the side because I got my notes because I'm not playing. So she confirmed that she was on ketamine, which she referred to as Special K. She also stated she was on GHB, which is a date rape drug, and also confirmed that she was on mushrooms. Now, she did not confirm whether these were a combination or if it was just at times she was on the different ones.
All of this played into the larger narrative the prosecution is trying to build. That Diddy didn't just abuse Cassie emotionally or physically, but psychologically broke her down and reshaped her identity until she didn't even recognize herself. He isolated her, controlled her, manipulated her. And when she resisted, he used fear and intimidation to silence her. And now, Cassie was able to expose the true nature of Diddy. To the public, he was a music mogul, a business tycoon, and a larger-than-life personality. But behind closed doors, Cassie described a man whose obsession with power infected every inch of their relationship. But if that wasn't disturbing enough, Cassie then dove into the truly shocking part of her testimony, the infamous freakoffs. These weren't your average parties. According to Cassie, these were drug-fueled marathon sex sessions that Diddy orchestrated with the precision of a film director. The participants, escorts, mostly male, were hired specifically to engage in sexual acts with her while Diddy watched. And this wasn't just voyeurism. He allegedly gave detailed instructions, choreographed the acts, and even adjusted lighting and props to fit the scene. We're talking candles, linens, temperature settings, every detail meticulously crafted. But before we take a deep dive into this matter, let's talk about what Cassie said about her relationship with Diddy. Because y'all, it's pretty candid. Why? Well, Cassie revealed that before things took a dark turn, there was a moment of excitement, at least on the surface. She was young, specifically 21, and traveling with a powerful man. She described celebrating her 21st birthday in Las Vegas with Combs and some friends.
So she was talking about that. She also said that he kissed her on her 21st birthday. And over this period of time, Combs introduced her to orals, said that she was completely sex inexperienced at that time. So she was also saying on the stand that he introduced her to these freak-offs. These were the encounters that would take place in which Cassie Ventura would end up engaging in acts.
That night, he kissed her for the first time in a bathroom suite. At the time, it felt like something out of a dream. She even admitted she felt special being close to someone like him, someone who had her career in his hands and could make things happen. In the early days, she said, their relationship had a sense of excitement, even curiosity. He exposed her to new experiences and introduced her to sexual acts she had never encountered before. She felt nervous, inexperienced, and unsure, but also eager to please and not entirely understanding the gravity of what was unfolding. She was still seeing someone else when all of this began, but Diddy's power and presence slowly eclipsed everything. Then came the proposal that changed everything. Diddy suggested they try voyeurism. He wanted to watch her have sex with another man while he directed the whole thing. According to Cassie, she was 22 years old at the time. She felt confused and nervous, but she also admitted she loved him and wanted to make him happy. And so she went along with it.
One of those moments was when she explained to the court that a year into their relationship, that Diddy had approached her with this fantasy that he had. He called it voyeurism, where he wanted to see her have sex with another man, later referred to as freakoffs. She said her stomach dropped. She was 22 years old. She described herself as very naive and a people pleaser. She said the only reason that she agreed to it is because she knew it would make him happy.
Sadly, that was the worst decision she made. Soon, she realized that what started as a one-time experiment quickly spiraled into a routine. Over time, she began to feel trapped in these performances, ones that she said she never actually wanted to do, but didn't feel like she had a choice. The sessions went from being occasional to expected, with Diddy growing more demanding, more specific, and more theatrical in his setups. She described how he controlled everything, what the escorts wore, how the bed was made, and the mood lighting.
She said that Sean Combs directed everything from what she had on, to the lighting in the room, to how she was supposed to interact with the person that she was having sex with. When the prosecution asked her, was there ever a time that you enjoyed the freak-offs? This is when Cassie got choked up, and she said, I did, but only because I got to spend one-on-one time with Combs, and I really did love him.
These weren't casual experiences. They were staged productions where she was the star, but never the director. She wasn't allowed to opt out. If she hesitated or resisted, he'd grow cold, angry, and emotionally distant. Eventually, she said, it felt like a job, not something between two people in a relationship, but a performance that she had to endure over and over again just to keep the peace, and in many cases, just to stay safe. Yep, Cassie was fighting for her life every single day she spent with Diddy. Cassie testified that over time, the emotional toll became unbearable. She began feeling dissociated, physically present but emotionally numb. These freak-offs became the most dehumanizing part of her life with Diddy, yet she was too afraid to speak up, too afraid to leave, and too afraid of what he might do if she ever said no. As mentioned before, the setup is just crazy. It's important to talk about this because it shows just how twisted Diddy's head is. I mean, who in their right mind would request their partner to be intimate with someone else? With candles, linens, and temperature settings, every detail is meticulously crafted. Cassie said she felt like she was performing for him, like she was in a role she never auditioned for. And the worst part? These weren't one-off situations. They became routine, normalized, expected. She testified that she was often given drugs by Diddy himself to make it through these sessions, claiming they were tools of control and submission. The courtroom then shifted to the violence, and this wasn't just hearsay. There's video evidence. The now infamous 2016 surveillance footage showing Diddy allegedly attacking Cassie in a hotel hallway was referenced and confirmed by Cassie as having occurred immediately after a freak-off. That's key, because while Diddy's defense team argues that the incident was domestic violence, Cassie's account positions it as part of a larger pattern of coercion and trafficking. She described being stomped in the head, getting dragged, black eyes, bruises, but the physical abuse was only part of it. She also recounted how Diddy would psychologically torment her, telling her to watch her mouth, forcing her to change her expressions, accusing her of being ungrateful or disloyal. The constant emotional manipulation was just as devastating as the violence. And if that wasn't enough, the courtroom also heard from LAPD officer Israel Flores, who witnessed firsthand the aftermath of one of the most infamous incidents between the two. While working as a security guard at the Intercontinental Hotel in Los Angeles back in 2016, Flores responded to a call about a woman in distress.
All that day saying there was, quote, a woman in distress on the 6th floor. He says he stepped out of the elevator, and that's when he saw Sean Combs and the woman in the elevator lobby. Flores testified he recognized the man in the lobby as Combs, so he's identified Sean Diddy Combs here, and that he found Combs to have a devilish stare. That is the quote that he used to describe that.
When he arrived, he found Cassie huddled in a corner, hood up, face hidden. A shattered vase lay on the floor, and she looked terrified. Flores testified that Diddy had chased Cassie into the hallway after she walked out of a freak-off she didn't want to participate in. He allegedly grabbed her, shoved her to the ground, kicked her, and dragged her back into the hotel room. Cassie confirmed this in her own testimony, saying she tried to leave because she didn't want to ruin her image ahead of a movie premiere. Pleasing Diddy, she believed, would ensure things went smoothly. After the attack, she said, she stayed on the ground, not because she was okay, but because she didn't want him to do more damage. That moment, caught on hotel surveillance video and now shown in court, became a defining piece of evidence. The defense tried hard to get it tossed. They failed. And now, this very moment is hunting Diddy Slash. But the story didn't end there. After the assault, as Flores was getting ready to leave, he said Diddy called him back, tossed him a sack of money, and muttered 3 words that rang through the courtroom: "Don't tell anyone."
But he says that Combs actually approached him in the hotel room with a wad of cash that he interpreted to be a bribe. Flores took it to mean, quote, "Don't tell nobody," he said on the stand.
According to Flores, this wasn't a one-time thing. He testified that Diddy later tried to grab a phone from another guard, afraid he was being recorded. Things escalated so quickly that Flores ended up pinning Diddy against a wall just to de-escalate the chaos. Yes, it was wild. But perhaps the most chilling part of her testimony involved blackmail. Cassie claimed that Diddy recorded many of these freak-off sessions, keeping the footage as leverage.
He beat Cassie brutally, kicked her in the back, flung her like a rag doll. That wasn't enough. And he said if she did it again, if Cassie cheated on him again, he would release these freak-off tapes. Now, another thing was interesting, not just freak-offs, they would call them wild king parties, okay?
If she ever considered leaving him or speaking out, she feared he would release the videos and ruin her career. That fear, she said, kept her in line. It was a twisted game of carrot and stick, and he held all the power. Now, the defense has tried to push back. They argue that Cassie had possession of some of those videos, and that this was more of a consensual, albeit toxic, relationship. But the prosecution isn't buying it. According to legal experts, even if Cassie went along with certain things at the time, it doesn't change the massive power imbalance, and that's crucial in proving coercion. One of the biggest questions floating around both inside and outside the courtroom is this: was Cassie a victim or a willing partner? During the trial, the defense leaned heavily on the narrative that she willingly participated in the relationship, that it had its ups and downs, and that she enjoyed the benefits of Diddy's world. But according to the prosecution, and frankly most of the public, those arguments fall flat when compared to the consistent pattern of violence, control, and coercion. Even the testimony of a male escort who participated in the freak-offs has come into play.
Oh, what's taking place is the continuation of the cross-examination of a man by the name of Daniel Phillip. Julie, he is the male stripper that was hired by, he said, Cassie to engage in sexual acts.
He admitted to being paid by both Diddy and Cassie, and that he had communications with her. This prompted some questions about whether she was facilitating the freak-offs too. But again, it comes back to control. Because despite how hard Diddy's team is trying to paint Cassie as a willing partner, the public ain't buying it. Now, they are throwing a pretty serious question. Would she have done those things if she hadn't feared retaliation? If she hadn't been manipulated and emotionally broken down? Okay, now let's talk about this escort. That male escort, 41-year-old Daniel Phillip, didn't just drop a few receipts. His testimony brought a new level of shock to the courtroom.
But when he got to the hotel, to the room, that Cassie opened up the door, he did not know that was Cassie, and that she told him, well, it's my birthday and my husband wants to do something special, so can you give me a massage with this body oil, and then we can just take it from there and see where it leads.
In roughly an hour of graphic, unfiltered detail, Philip walked the court through his bizarre and increasingly disturbing involvement with both Cassie and Diddy from around 2012 to 2014. And let me tell you, this wasn't some one-time gig. This was a pattern. It all started when Philip was managing a male review show in Manhattan. One night, he got a call to fill in at what he thought was a standard bachelorette party at Gramercy Park Hotel. But when he showed up, Cassie was the one who opened the door. She was dressed in lingerie, sunglasses, and high heels, and she cut right to the chase. She asked him if he was okay with performing for just her. When he walked in, Diddy was already in the room, masked up in a white robe and a bandana over his face, silent and watching. According to Philip, what followed wasn't a dance routine. It was a sex act directed by Diddy himself. Baby oil, candles, cash on the table. He says Cassie handed him thousands in cash up front, and Diddy just sat in the corner, Philip says that at the time, he didn't even realize who he was dealing with until Diddy spoke. That voice? Unmistakable. Philip testified that over the next 2 years, these freak-off sessions became a recurring thing. Sometimes in hotels, sometimes at private homes. Always controlled, always strange. Sometimes they lasted an hour. Other times, up to 10. And every single time, Philip claimed Diddy gave detailed instructions when to undress, where to ejaculate, how to move, and how to perform. And it didn't stop at voyeurism. Philip recalled role-play scenarios, MDMA being offered to him, and moments when Cassie, allegedly under Diddy's emotional or drug-fueled manipulation, requested degrading acts. One time, she allegedly asked Philip to urinate on her. Yes, this is not something we made up. This escort testified in court and revealed all the nasty things Diddy did to Cassie. And while all this was happening, Philip testified that he could feel something shifting. It wasn't just sexual performance, it was psychological warfare, something Cassie should never have to endure. Even more chilling were the incidents of violence Philip says he witnessed. Once, he claimed Diddy threw a glass bottle at Cassie and dragged her by her hair, screaming at her to follow his commands. Another time, from behind closed doors, Philip said he heard what sounded like slapping and Cassie crying out, "I'm sorry, I'm sorry!" Diddy allegedly responded with, "When I tell you to come, you come, not later." Philip admitted he was too scared to intervene. In his words, Diddy wasn't just a celebrity. He was a man with unlimited power. Philip believed trying to step in could have cost him his life. He said he just sat there, terrified, waiting for the violence to end. Then, on the same night, Diddy would try to resume the freak-off like nothing happened. That flip, the instant switch from rage to erotic command, and left Philip shaken. And the control didn't end when the sex stopped. According to Philip, Diddy once took a photo of his driver's license and told him it was for insurance. That one move sent a message loud and clear. "We know who you are and we can find you." Philip testified that he understood it as a threat. There were also moments where Philip's body simply couldn't take it anymore. He testified that he started struggling with performance during these sessions, especially after witnessing abuse. Diddy allegedly gave him Cialis to help, but on occasions when Philip couldn't perform, he wasn't paid. Eventually, things got so intense that Philip found himself handing out all the cash Diddy gave him to strangers in Times Square. That's how unhinged and broken he felt. And even though he said he didn't care about the money, he kept returning. Why? Because he feared Diddy, but he also wanted to make sure Cassie was okay. In his words, he considered her a friend, one trapped in a world she couldn't escape. All of this only adds another heavy layer to the prosecution's case, because while the defense is busy trying to paint Cassie as a willing participant, Philip's account shows how deep the control really went. Cassie may have handed out the cash, she may have sent the follow-up texts, but was she orchestrating it? Or was she just surviving it? Philip's testimony makes it clear. This wasn't just This was a power game. One where Diddy allegedly pulled every string, controlled every move, and made sure everyone in his orbit knew who was really in charge. Going back to Cassie. The singer's words may not prove every detail of RICO on their own, but they set the foundation. And that video, the 2016 assault, cements the reality of violence behind closed doors. Let's talk about charges. Diddy is facing sex trafficking by force, fraud, or coercion, racketeering, transporting women for prostitution, arson, obstruction, bribery. It's a laundry list. And here's the catch. Conviction on just one or two of these charges could mean serious time. We're talking 15 years minimum for sex trafficking and potentially life in prison for racketeering. Now, his defense isn't denying the violence anymore. Instead, they've pivoted. They admit Diddy had issues. They admit he's done things people won't like. But they argue this isn't a criminal enterprise, it's a messy relationship. They say Cassie is painting it worse than it was because she has something to gain. And yes, they brought up her previous 2023 lawsuit, the one that was filed and settled within 24 hours. But here's the kicker. The moment that video surfaced, the one showing Diddy dragging Cassie, it shifted public opinion. What once sounded like a messy breakup turned into something much darker. The lawsuit became real. And now, the trial is showing that Cassie's testimony isn't an outlier. It's part of a larger narrative. People have wondered why the prosecution hasn't brought up other victims, especially male or minor victims. The speculation is that they're being selective, building a case that won't crumble under scrutiny. It's hard enough to prove a RICO case without risking inconsistencies. Every new witness is a potential crack in the wall. They needed Cassie's testimony, and they needed it airtight. That's why she took the stand early before giving birth, before anything could complicate her availability. She was their ace card, and so far it looks like the jury is listening. Early polls show that 82% of viewers following the trial see Cassie as a victim, not a co-conspirator. So, where does this leave Diddy? Well, even if he skates on the RICO charges, many experts believe he'll still face prison time for transporting sex workers. That charge alone carries up to 10 years. But if the jury connects the dots from the freakoffs to the surveillance to the blackmail, this could very well become a career-ending, life-altering conviction. And for Cassie? Her story isn't just a testimony, it's a reckoning. Her words have already sparked a wave of support and scrutiny across the music industry. People are asking questions, willingly participating, or trying to survive. Another one added, "She began as a partner. She ends as a victim." People are paying attention. Because when a woman stands up 8 months pregnant and recounts 10 years of abuse, manipulation, and fear, while the man accused sits at the defense table with everything to lose, you realize this trial isn't just about one relationship. It's about power, silence, and what happens when someone finally dares to speak. What do you guys think? Is Cassie's testimony enough to put Diddy behind bars? Let us know in the comments and make sure to stick around for more update about this case.